Greetings, world, and welcome back to another episode of the NeuroWellness Project, a podcast devoted to exploring compassionate and evidence-informed treatments for autism. Last week, we had the pleasure of sitting down with renowned speech-language pathologist Amy Pinder, who walked us through ways that we can support the development and communication of our neurodivergent loved ones from a place of connection and presence. And this week, we are shifting our focus a little bit to another critical piece of the puzzle, which is accessible resources for families and caregivers. When my son was first diagnosed with autism, one of the hardest things wasn't so much the diagnosis itself, but it was navigating it without available resources for regular everyday families like my own. And for a few years, I definitely struggled to find a credible source of information on how to support his condition holistically in a way that aligned with our values and didn't cost thousands of dollars out of pocket. And sometimes on a journey like this, you are lucky enough to stumble across something that changes everything. And for our family, that was in 2023 when a fellow autism mom was featured on a news program that I watched because she had just released a book called Warrior Mom, A Mother's Journey in Healing Her Son with Autism. And this was the first time that I had ever seen somebody so directly and courageously challenge that mainstream narrative that autism is an untreatable condition. And I ordered the book that night, and it has proven to be an invaluable lifeline for our family. It was easy to read, it was cohesive, and it offered not just plenty of food for thought, but some things that I had definitely been without for a while, like hope and a clear sense of direction. And that book has literally changed the trajectory of my son's life, and I am in no way alone in that sentiment. The author of this now best-selling book is none other than Tracy Slepsevic. Tracy is not just a mother and an author, but she is also a certified integrative health professional, a keynote speaker, and an Air Force veteran. Tracy is the founder of Autism Health, which is a nonprofit dedicated to the education and advocacy for integrative treatments for autism. And she is the visionary behind the Autism Health Summit. With 17 years of research in the fields of complementary and alternative medicine, Tracy is absolutely a guiding light for any parent who is navigating an autism journey. And today I have the incredible honor of welcoming Tracy to this podcast. So let's go. Hi, Tracy. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk with us today.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
You have quite a remarkable story, and it seems like you just started as like a mom on a mission. And I was wondering if you could maybe walk us through like what the early days of that journey looked like for you, like around the time when your son was first diagnosed.
Well, the earlier days started before he was diagnosed. I think the struggle was really, getting a diagnosis instead of the pediatrician just telling me everything was normal over and over. So when he was 1, he regressed after his, baby visit. They gave him, the typical, I call it poison. So we'll just say poison. And then he got very sick. He got the measles, and then he started to really regress. And I was told he was having an allergic reaction, not the measles, but that's inaccurate. And so after that, I just started to see a major decline in his speech, in his motor skills, cognitive function. And then it was the journey of like a couple of years of just trying to figure out what was wrong. As a mom, you know that something's wrong with your kid, but technically, I was very uneducated on what autism was. To me, it was Dustin Hoffman's character in The Rain Man, so I was very confused. So after that, it was really a long road, but God always sends me angels. So this woman came to work for us and she had a son with autism. So she was able to kind of guide me on what to do and how to do it. So after I went through the regional center and they lost our paperwork, and then two preschools said, I'm sorry, but your kid has special needs. We can't care for him. So then I ended up going through the school district and having Noah evaluated after the age of 3. And that was a very thorough evaluation. I was quite impressed, and they were very kind and caring. And then after that, once I had answers, God sends me an angel again who was my naturopathic doctor. And I just so happened to have gone back to the office, and his office was adjacent to ours. I saw him in the hallway, and I told him what was wrong. And he just looked at me and he's like, "Oh, it's going to be okay. You need to go home and you need to do your research." He said, "But, Noah's going to be fine. Kids are making great strides with biomedical intervention." So I'm like, okay, I don't know what biomedical is, but I'm going to learn really fast. So I had to quickly just suck the tears back up into my eyes, go home and get to work, and really just get my PhD overnight in how to heal my kid. And so I read a lot of books. I went to conferences. I went to parent tea talks, parent meetings, whatever I could. I just totally immersed myself in the whole autism community and talking to other parents who had already been on that biomedical journey. And from
Mm-hmm.
there, I started gluten-free, dairy-free, and soy-free for Noah. And Noah really started to come to. He started to spit out words and then eventually put, 2, 3 words together. We want things as parents, we want it to happen overnight.
Mm-hmm.
Within a few months, Noah was stringing some words together. So to me, that's pretty fast results. Then I took him to meet with a functional medicine doctor. Back then, they called them DAN doctors, Defeat Autism Now. And from there, she did urine, fecal, and blood tests to test for everything from heavy metals to parasites in stool and candida and dysbiosis in the gut, everything blood, that they could, some genetic testing for like MTHFR. So then I had like a baseline, which I always feel was really important for parents to have a baseline for their child, even if you're, struggling financially, which is one of the number one reasons why I wrote the book, because everyone keeps saying, I can't afford, I can't afford. Well, I couldn't either. My husband had lost his business. Our house went into foreclosure and I was bartering for treatments. I was negotiating. I sold everything that we owned. If I could pick it up and put it on eBay, it was gone. And from there, I focused on his healing, and nobody was going to tell me that he wasn't going to live a normal functioning life. So today, fast forward after, lots of treatments, lots of care, and he is 20 years old and he's fully functioning. He has some sensory stuff every once in a while, but other than that, he can drive, he can work, so he doesn't really have too many limitations. He leaves Saturday to go to Japan for 3 weeks with his friends all by himself.
Oh,
He just got back from London and he flew there all by himself. And so he's living the dream and he does very well. And so that's all I ever wanted for him.
wow. That is such a beautiful and inspiring story. Was there a turning point in your son's healing journey where you realized that you had to share this experience with the world? Like, I need to write this down. Did you have any aha moment like that?
Well, there were many aha moments, but I think it was after Noah got to a functioning state, but definitely after we regained his motor skills from stem cell therapy. So obviously cleaning the gut, but I was still focused on healing his body and everything when he was so young that it didn't occur to me to write a book. And then for so many years, I just you're programmed sometimes to believe that, oh, well, that's not for me. I'm not a writer. I can't do that or whatever. So at the beginning of COVID, I went on a retreat and I met a woman and she had just written a book. And I'm like, oh, I've always wanted to tell my story to help other parents. And she's like, so what's stopping you? It was maybe another angel that just came into my life. But at that moment, I was like, she's right. What's stopping me? I mean, I definitely I was in my head about it. I'm not smart enough to write a book. So I sat down and really started to research how to write a book. I got a literary coach. I didn't like my first literary coach, so I got another literary coach who ended up being my editor. My story was really easy to put on paper. All the other stuff that came about was a lot of research and working with my doctor on what treatments and everything, protocols, because there was so much we did for Noah. So I sat down with her for like a half a day and went over all that stuff. So a lot of that's in the biomedical portion of the book. But for the most part, it was like about 6 months.
Have you found yourself surprised by just the profound impact that your story has had on so many lives, including my own son's? Have you found yourself surprised by the world's reaction to you actually writing all of that down?
I think so. I think I just don't give myself enough credit, right?
Mm-hmm. Um, and prior to your journey with your son, were you in the medical field already, or were you totally new to all of that?
So I had worked in a hospital before when I was in the Air Force, but as in medical knowledge, no. I was a psychology student at the time, but I quickly dropped out of that when my own psychology lesson, right?
So you go through this amazing epic journey with your son. He's now a functional, healthy young man. You write the book, and then at what point did you found Autism Health?
So last year, February, I held my first conference in San Antonio, and it cost me quite a pretty penny. And I wanted to fund scholarships for families. So we ended up paying for a lot of them. So then we decided right after that, early last year, to start the nonprofit organizations.
Would you mind maybe telling us a little bit about the mission and goals for your organization?
So the mission was to cover the scholarships for the conference, the Autism Health Summit. And so that was when we decided to turn it into a nonprofit and then help fund other things. So we do webinars, um, we host parent talks and so many other things, parent coaching, and mainly the scholarships for the Autism Health Summit, which is an annual event. And so the mission is to assist families impacted by autism with funding scholarships and grants, and then also funding research for autism and healing the underlying conditions associated with autism. So since then, we've partnered with Dr. Goodnow and his company um, with the whole plasmalogen thing and so that we're going to do a study and have different families who are impacted by autism in this study, and then they would receive a year every quarter. They would receive supplements and record the progress of their children. And then also we're looking to do another study on stem cell therapy, which I'm hoping soon, but it's kind of like in the works,
Well,
but that will be in Mexico. Um, and so that's going to be with CPI. And so we're really looking to, you know, record the benefits of stem cell therapy for these kids with autism because I see great strides. Even in my own son, Noah regained all his motor skills when he was 7 years old when we took him to the Ukraine for stem cell therapy. So it's really important. Like, we're doing a lot of things. We're working with a lot of different research companies, and we're working with Dr. Sabine Hassan and fecal transplant. So just doing our best to create awareness, help fund research for families, and so they could be part of these research studies and truly find out the benefits of some of these different therapies.
Thank you for sharing all of that. That is one of the reasons that I started this podcast, was just because there's just so much out there that we like can be doing for autism, right? And I just feel like nobody knows about it. Like other autism parents, like they don't know where to turn. And in my own journey with my own son, he was diagnosed, and then it was kind of like that was it. You're on your own, we'll see you next year for an evaluation. And
Right.
I had started going down the route with Ayurvedic medicine and looking into that. But yeah, it wasn't until I found your book that the world of like all the biomedical and the regenerative stuff kind of like opens up. And like that was a totally pivotal moment. And in terms of Autism Health, I know that you have a walk coming up that you're organizing. Could you give us a little bit of information about what inspired it, or like what your vision is behind it?
Absolutely. So again, to help fund those scholarships, for the conference, so we're not charging like outrageous prices, and some families who are low income can attend for free. We have to do fundraising. So the walk is part of our fundraising efforts to raise money for these scholarships and the different webinars that we do and the different coaching and all that stuff. So it's a it's a work in progress, but the walk is will be in. So it's a hybrid walk. It'll be in person, or people can walk virtually, and it's just a kid-friendly 3K walk, and we're doing it in Huntington Beach Central Park on September 6th. That's a Saturday, so it's the weekend after Memorial Day weekend. There'll be fun and games for these kids at the different vendor booths, and it'll just be a blast for them. But to really bring together community, that's another big thing, so that families can meet other families that are impacted.
Wow, that sounds amazing. I am in New Jersey. I wish that I would be able to make it all the way out to California, but you might have a virtual attendee in myself and my son for sure. And in terms of your work with Autism Health and even the book, where can people find more information about you and your work through these organizations?
So the website for the organization is Autism Health, HEALTH.com. And for my Warrior Mom book, you can go to warriormom.com and you can get more information in regards to how to order a book. It's really online wherever books are sold, but if you want a hard copy, then you have to go through me, and then I just sign it and I ship it out.
Thank you. I'll definitely put a link to those websites down in the description on our YouTube video. And Tracy, thank you so much. You have done so much. I guess I have one final question, and that is, where do you see yourself within the next few years?
Um, ah, there's endless possibilities. So my goal is to really help as many families as I possibly can to be able to assist them either by getting them into studies, or I know all these different treatments and therapies and everything are really pricey. So I'm really working with different companies in regards to the research side of it, of fundraising to help these families as much as I can on the biomedical side. But the more families that we touch and impact and inspire, it's always my goal to move and inspire people towards better health. And but to really just, I mean, for myself, this is my life. This is what I do, and no matter how hard it gets or how stressful it can be, these families need me, and I'm going to go the distance for them.
Wow. Tracy, thank you so much. Thank you for the work that you do. Thank you for the book that you have written. Thank you for changing so many lives. And I can't wait to see where the future takes you on your journey. Thank you so much.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it, and all my blessings to you and your family.
Same. Thank you so much.